Hi everyone, Chris J here with Blue Coat Foundation. On this episode, I have a conversation with Ismael Carlos. He worked 5 years as an officer for the Santa Monica College PD before he joined the Los Angeles Police Department. He was a tanker for the United States Marine Corps and was deployed into combat in Iraq. Carlos and I always have short conversations at work about things like leadership, mental wellness, burnout, officer-involved shootings, and how they relate to military combat, and other things too. Those conversations at work never really seem to get finished, so we decided to record a podcast, and I have to say that this conversation touched on a lot of very important topics that we all should be discussing more frequently and more openly. Carlos dedicates this podcast to his godson, Ethan Carlos. Please support the Ethan Carlos Foundation, a nonprofit organization, by going to ethancarlos.org.
I didn't go. I was on active duty. I mean, the only time I got activated was when I got sent overseas. But I joined the Marines in 1999. And well, let me go back. The reason I joined is because in '99 I actually paid my way through the police academy in Rio Hondo in Whittier. At the time, I was working at UPS. Had 4 years on the job. I was like, man, I always wanted to be a police officer. I always liked the uniform. Wanted to initially go to the Marine Corps active duty after high school, but never fell in love with my girlfriend. So that kind of,
Your ex-girlfriend,
well,
who's
not my
now
wife.
your wife. That's a Peter Pascal joke.
Yeah. So I was at UPS and I was like, I love my job. I was very physical, but I was like, man, I got to do something. So I got to set this planet in ocean here. So I realized that I had about $6,000, and I guess they have like a 401k at UPS. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use this money to pay my way through the academy, because I had found out from an uncle that was an active police officer for Cal State Long Beach, that you could pay your way through the academy as a pre-service. So basically, the academy, Rio Hondo Academy, is an independent academy, stressful academy at the time. All like those local departments send their recruits through there, and if they have open slots, you are able to kind of apply there and kind of they do a background on you and everything, and you can pay your way through the academy as you're like a pre-service basically.
Huh.
And so, in hopes that when you're in the academy, other departments go up and they have like these recruiting um, days, and they'll hire you while you're in the academy and start paying you.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, that never happened with me.
Okay. Nobody recruited you.
Nobody recruited me.
They came out to look at everybody. Yeah, nah, we don't want that guy.
Yeah, you're like 85, 88%. A lot of guys were 90%. At that time, too, it wasn't like they were like now where they were recruiting and they needed people, so it was very competitive.
Interesting.
And so, I graduated, had no job. I was bummed out.
So you were like post-certified, but
Post-certified,
not getting picked up.
correct. So post-certified certificate only good for 3 years. You have to get a job within 3 years so you can get that pass that probation period and get your post certificate.
Got it.
So I had 3 years. So I was like kind of down on my luck. I was like, man, I gotta do something. So I ended up getting a a job as a parts driver at Nissan in Duarte. My uncle got me that job. But I was just thinking of ways, how can I get the advantage to get hired? So I joined the reserves. I joined the reserves in late '99.
What branch?
Marines, and I told the recruiters like, hey, I want to go infantry. I was like, well, might as well go infantry since I'm going in. And they're like, well, we don't got no infantry right now.
What?
Because I wanted to go in right away. He's like, we got a tanker job. He's a tank crewman. You know what that is? He kind of like
I
gave me a
think, was
brief
he lying to you?
explanation.
I feel like there's always infantry available.
Yes, because I think they try to fill certain billets that if they
Right.
finish a certain billet, they
Right.
get a bonus.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what do they do? Well, they support the infantry. They're mechanized, this and that. So I was like, all right, sign me up. So I left the next week. They flew me out there, went to boot camp, and started boot camp.
Damn, in a week, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It was actually that was the first time I ever flown on an airplane. They flew me from LAX to San Diego.
Sheltered little Duarte kid. Is that what you were?
Well,
Or
Whittier, yeah.
Whittier? Okay.
So, yeah, flew in. Got into the bus. I didn't know. I was nervous. I didn't know what the hell to expect.
How old are you? 19?
At the time, I was 21.
Oh shit!
21
You
at the
came
time.
out at 21.
Yeah, 21. And so, got there, got on the yellow footsteps, and it started from there. 3 months of boot camp. From there, graduated, and then went to, you do your 10 days of Marine combat training. It's like some infantry training there.
Okay.
Get a little break, and then went down to Kentucky, Fort Knox. I was like, what the hell? I've never been out of the state.
Out of Whittier.
Yeah, like where am I going? Arrived in Kentucky, Fort Knox, and it was like humid, hot.
There's just culture shock everywhere.
Yeah,
Huh?
like,
Everything.
where are we going? And I goes, I don't believe there's a Marine base there. Or sure enough, there's a little little Marine barracks within the Army base in Fort Knox, and it's a tank, a tank,
School, pretty
yeah,
much.
tank school. And so yeah, we for 3 months we trained with the tanks and studied the tanks, the weapons, and we got tested. And I don't say this much, but I'm proud of myself because I got an honor graduate from that course. you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so anyways, after that, oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So before I left, I had applied a couple places, and the only place that I interviewed for was at this college in Santa Monica, here in Santa Monica. So I actually went as far as doing the background, and even interviewed with the chief. But I had already signed up to go to the Marines, so there was nothing I can do.
Right.
So I told him, hey, I'm really interested in the job, but you know what? I'm actually leaving to the Marines next week, and they're how long and so forth. So when I was in tank school prior to graduating, I called home, and mom said, hey, you got a letter from Santa Monica College Police, and and so I called them the next day.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, we want to offer you contingent job offer,
Yeah.
but you have to pass the psych and the medical. I'm like, well, that's great, but I have 3 weeks till I graduate.
Yeah.
Okay, don't worry. It's like, just call us when you get back, and we'll arrange everything.
Huh.
But sure enough, graduated, got back. A week later, I did the psych. I mean, maybe took a psych and a medical like within a month.
Yeah.
I got hired 2 months after I got back as a police officer there.
So you're training to be a police officer and to drive or whatever that you do with tanks.
Yeah.
And to be what do you call it? A tanker?
A tanker. So yeah.
Okay.
So now I got to do my my new job, and then I got to report to my unit.
So you got a 21-year-old who's just driving parts for a dealership in Duarte. Never left Whittier except to go to work, and next thing you know, you got a gun, how to be a cop, and you got these big ass tanks you got to learn how to drive.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm like, and then I was like, college police. Like I knew I applied, but what does this entail? So it was I'm not gonna lie, it was nice weather.
So you were with SMCPD.
SMCPD, yeah.
Okay. How long?
I was there for almost 5 years. I was trying to make the move, and then at that time, I was like, you know what, this is great money,
Yeah.
good environment, but I wanted to do the pursuits and the
Oh yeah.
arrests.
I think at that age you can't talk anybody out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
so LAPD and sheriffs were the first ones, and LAPD actually gave me the go ahead. It took me about a year.
yeah.
Believe it or not, even though I was a police officer already, it took about a year to get into LA. Yeah.
So at what point, because 9/11 happened,
Mm-hmm.
how many years were you in reserve at that point?
So at that point, I was still at Santa Monica. I got hired in 2000, the end of 2000, and I got deployed 3 years after that. 3 years after.
Because of 9/11 and
Yes. I got deployed 3 years after that. Prior to that, we were going to, doing the whole, You know, because in the reserves, you only do 1 weekend or 4 days out of the month.
Yeah.
You do training and so forth. But I knew we started getting a little bit, started noticing some changes with the training,
Hmm.
just and with the higher command and their like demeanor. And then they started doing mock call-ups.
Oh, they're getting ready.
Yeah, so they were calls like, "Hey, you got to come. You got to be here at this time." So we'd go to the unit, get ready, and it's oh no, so they were just testing
Like drills, or did
readiness,
you know they were
readiness. It's like a readiness thing.
drill? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So sure enough, it this time it did call. And these it was right after I think New Year's Eve. They called, and I thought it was like, oh, another mock, freaking readiness, you know,
Yeah.
call up. But no, it was a real thing. They're like, yeah, your guys are going, and so
You can't even go back to where you were to
yeah, I was like, oh
finish any.
man, yeah, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough when it all sank in, like I'm really going.
Yeah.
Uh, because then you got to realize that we haven't been since then. We hadn't been in the wars. I think it was Afghanistan, and
Mm.
I think Afghanistan, and then there were there was rumors casualties,
Yeah.
how many
Oh yeah.
casualties we're gonna get, chemical weapons used, and so all that. Even though I was kind of already when you go to the Marine Corps, they sensitize you,
Desensitized.
desensitize
Yeah.
you to certain things, and that's where you learn to block your emotions
Mm.
and to kind of like how do you say compartment, like
Com-
compartment,
compartmentalize.
yeah,
Right.
you know, your emotions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was already in that mode, so I kind of it was sinking in, but it was sinking in more for the family. That's where you
Interesting.
saw the whole dynamic, the whole effect, how it
Yeah.
affects the family. Like I'm like, what,
Like they're like, holy shit, is he gonna die?
yes. So that there is
But
like,
you were like, kill, kill, kill.
I was like, no, I'm ready. Like I'm going with my buddies because we already knew each other for a couple of years. All the
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
it's weird, right? Because I'm like over here, like
Uh,
it's like it's almost like when we're going to the riots when we get deployed.
yeah.
We're almost like, oh, it's okay. I got you by my side. I
Yeah.
got him by my side. But even though we have family back there at home,
Worried.
but we're almost like I feel okay because Chris Johnson just by my side,
Yeah.
Slowy's by my side, or whoever's by my side.
Yeah.
I feel okay. Like if
Right.
something happens, they got my back.
Like no fear.
Like no fear.
Like brotherhood, sisterhood. Everything.
Exactly. Same
Yeah.
thing. Same mentality.
Warriorhood. Let's
Yeah.
say that.
Same
Yeah.
mentality. Had the same mentality, but it did gets a little bit to you when you see like your mom crying, and your obviously dad's not crying. He's kind of trying to hold it in. And
But you also got deployed later. Like you weren't 18 and getting deployed, or 19. You were almost 25, right?
20, yeah, at that time I was already 24, yeah,
It makes
24,
a difference
25.
too. Shit.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, got deployed overseas, and I mean, that all in itself was an experience, like just
So were you just because I have a bunch of friends who went overseas, but you know, no combat. They're kind of hung out for 9 months and went back 3 or 4 times. Just and they're like, yeah, no, you heard alarms, bombs, but we just I was so. Is that what you experienced?
no, we got the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we first push in there. Um,
So
got
you first push into.
the first push into Iraq. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So we initially landed in Kuwait, and the Kuwaitis were nice enough to give us some room and board there.
Uh,
Room and board at the border.
let me take you back a little bit. So you're going in, and okay, you're going in, and what do they tell you? Like, what's the mission?
So the mission is basically we're gonna sweep. We're gonna go from town to town. We're gonna be divided into certain platoons. We're gonna sweep. Some people are gonna sweep west, east, go from town to town, and just whoever's there is enemy basically because
Holy shit!
everybody else has evacuated or they're hunkered down.
Yeah.
So that's our mission. It's basically sweep the towns till we get to Baghdad. Till we get to Baghdad, and in Baghdad, we'll see what kind of resistance we meet when we get there. To take over Baghdad. That was the
Pretty
mission.
much just take over.
Mm-hmm.
We're in charge.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
All right.
yeah, we That's basically it. And we waited. We waited. Obviously, I don't know how long we waited, but we did wait at least a month till we got pushed. Till we got the call to go in.
So you're hanging out there
We're
for a
hanging out
month.
in yeah, and we're hanging out. We're some training days here and there, but most of the just downtime, just like talking to all the guys. Like, yeah, just yeah, just
I
hanging
mean,
out.
did you go to a coffee shop or go
There's
to a
no no.
bar
We
or
just had
something?
our no. There's nothing down there. I think the only thing that eventually got there, I think they would bring in some like cheeseburgers from like Burger King.
Mm,
Yeah, it's funny because Burger King seems to be everywhere. There's
yeah.
like a base, but that's about it. And then they were, yeah, they would just the MREs and you got to realize that once we got there, it's not like they had everything set up.
Yeah.
They were barely like setting everything, all the infrastructure up.
Wow. Okay.
So we didn't have bathrooms for the first like couple of weeks.
Oh,
We
wow.
had to go through the trenches and
Yeah.
do the whole digging. And
So when you finally went out, what was the? I just picture a speech or something like.
so we get the call. Well, the president goes on. He's on TV and goes and obviously we get the call before that, before he goes on TV, and this is the day before, and we start packing to go out at midnight. At midnight, towards the border.
Okay.
So we get there around, I want to say, around 11 to the border, and we just sit there. And it might have been later, but then they start bombing. You see all the bombs. They start bombing.
Try to bomb you guys.
No, they're bombing
Oh.
into Iraq. So
Got
they're
it.
prepping. They're prepping the area.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. We're prepping it so we can go in. And yeah, we're just sitting there. Some guys, are writing letters.
Uh,
That was pretty. That was pretty impactful. I think. I mean, I didn't write one.
yeah.
I didn't write a letter. They kind of like it's like, it's like a death letter. I guess you can
Oh,
just
interesting.
say, like something happens to me and they write it to
Right.
me. So I got my buddy that's in the tank. He hands me his letter. Like, hey, give this to my wife if I die.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that was kind of like. That was pretty impactful right there. I was like, even to now, like, just talking about it, it's like,
Yeah. And then he's like, you got something for your wife? You're like, nah.
I don't know. My mentality was like, I'm coming back. Like,
Interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
coming back. I don't care what I'm coming back.
Hmm.
I had the mentality, and I was trying to tell the other guys, hey man, don't get down on shot. We're gonna come back. We're gonna do this. You just can,
Yeah.
because they understand the other guys are younger than me.
Right.
Me and some other guys are a little older.
Yeah.
So we're trying to kind of like get these guys a little bit their mental
Yeah.
status. Like, hey, let's get in the game, guys.
Yeah.
Like, we can't think like that. But so that's what was going around with the letters
Wow.
and it's rough.
Yeah.
The guys are like, you're thinking, hey, and you gotta think, you do, it just comes to your mind, then it came to my mind like, man, I might not come back, but I didn't want it to overwhelm me.
Yeah. At what point do you suppress that? Was that in a conscious effort, or was it just like this collective, like, okay, we're done, let's go rock and roll,
It was almost like automatic, like maybe it's part of just part of the whole training, the Marine Corps gives you, but more of the willing to, like, I'm gonna do this to come back. The faster I do this, the faster I go back to my family, kind of mentality,
Yeah.
right? Kind of. So, and then I guess, I mean, I'm sort of, I'm not, I'm gonna say I'm a hardcore religious, but I am religious.
Yeah.
I am. I can't say I go to church every Sunday, but I do go to church maybe twice a month and so forth. But that also, I think, played a little part into the whole prepping mentality. Prepping, I guess
Sure.
you could say.
Yeah.
But that's basically what we just waited there for. And once it got prepped, we all moved in. We moved in, and then, believe it or not, 24 hours. We were away for 24 hours on the tank. We're 24 hours just riding on the tank. Zzz,
Like a 24-hour drive.
drive and just stopping for a little bit and then just going until we got to our basically like a CP area where we
Yeah.
just got to stage again and then figure out the plan, who's gonna go where, But
It's a long ass
for
drive.
24 hours, yeah, 24 hours. I
So
was
it's
like-
it's a big ass like cavalry
Convoy,
just-
yeah. Big ass convoy, dude. Just a big ass convoy going through there. And then the funny thing is that you know, even though you're tired, you're so awake because you're like okay, you know, what do we expect? You know, like everybody's just, you
I
know.
could see why people are just chewing tobacco, smoking cigarettes. Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
the heck
yeah.
would you not?
It's so funny because I don't smoke,
Yeah,
but I did smoke when I was over there.
yeah,
The
yeah,
guy's
yeah.
like, hey, and I was like, oh shit, this work.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it was and you know, like I said, once we went in, we had, you know, we had to go into the towns, and we encountered some resistance with some tanks, some mortar fire, some small arms, you know. And the thing with the tanks is that you don't see your enemy up close, but you do see them up close on the binos, because you know, on the binos, because you do have the you know, it's the magnifying,
yeah.
you know, so you see up. I do see them up front, and the tank commander does, but everybody else doesn't see them up
So
front.
you
That's in close.
you were shooting the
The gunner, yeah, I was the gunner.
okay.
Yeah, I was in charge of all the main gun, the machine gun.
So even though it was a distance, 'cause you could still see
Yeah, because you have to
people
see in the.
getting.
Yeah, you got to see in the binos up close, like
You
that
were seeing
close.
them getting fucked up.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, you could see. Yeah,
Mm.
so, and then you pass all, you know, as you pass by the towns,
You're like, that's the guy I
you see
hit.
the carnage. Like, you know, you see, oh yeah, that's.
So what was that like? I mean, were you already just on suppression mode, or did that trip you out when it was happening?
Mm. I mean, the first time I pulled that trigger,
Yeah.
it's you know, it's one thing when you're doing training, you know,
Right.
you're doing training and pulling the trigger, but when you're like, man, I'm about to like, you know, it's somebody's life, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a different, you know, it's different, but at the same time, um, you're not thinking about it because you're just kind of like, hey, you're in that mode, you know.
Yeah.
You're like in that survival mode, like, hey, it's them or us
Yeah.
kind of mode.
Uh,
So it's not until after that in my kick in, you know,
mm.
after it's all done, we all get together, you know, for the night, and you're like, oh shit, I just did this, I just did that, you know.
Also, like this, maybe the same night that would kind of
Yeah,
come back. Like, holy
yeah, the
shit.
same
At
night.
least in the beginning, right?
Yeah, maybe you might think about it a little bit, just for a little, and then it's again, you're
Mm.
back in that mode, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I gotta say that. I gotta say that. Is that your fault?
It's yours. It's over there.
We should turn that off.
You good?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
Uh huh.
Um, I gotta say that you don't really process everything until after.
Uh,
You know, until after. Almost like when we're like doing all these, you get deployed to these riots and stuff. It's your body's almost like in survival mode, and you're trying to like complete the mission.
yeah.
And once all said and done, and you're back at your safe place,
Yeah.
that's when it kicks in a little bit.
Right.
Right, a little bit. You kind of like your body starts. Okay, I can process this now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't until after the fact, and I think maybe it might have been even mere year after.
I could see that.
Yeah. Even now, maybe as we get older, I think we get a little bit more sensitive.
Well, we start. Yeah. I mean, not that
Not
more just self-aware,
self-aware. Yeah.
or we allow the self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
It's a like warriorship is a young man's war.
yes,
It's a young man's game. You know.
yes, for sure. Because I did feel the difference in my mentality and my my physical changes from when I was back then in the you know when I was deployed. Different, you know, than now.
Yeah.
As I got older and stuff.
And there's so much that goes back to police work, right? That we could probably be here for hours.
Mm-hmm.
But were were you ever scared during battle?
Um, scared. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say scared. Fear. A good fear. I don't know if there's such
Hmm.
bad or good fear, but good fear were more like cautious fear,
Mm.
but never scared of dying.
Mm.
Never scared of dying. I might have thought about it once or twice,
Yeah.
but I put it in the back of my head, and
Yeah.
a different compartment, kind of like no, just never. I told myself, like, you know what, it is what it is. Like, if I lose, if something happens to me, then so be it. I don't know, this mentality is weird.
Well, you think about police work now, and we go into whatever.
That's the same thing.
Like, are we scared? No.
No, it's just a little bit of fear. Might be a little bit like a cautiousness, like maybe
It's almost like even if you think too much, it'll
it'll affect you.
cause that, but then
Yeah,
that could cause delay.
that's correct.
So you can't. You
You
just
can't.
gotta
Yeah,
push it back.
yeah, you got to push it back. Yeah, and that's exactly the same thing.
Mm.
When you're working, it's the same mentality. You go, you're in the safe zone at roll call, right? You're with the guys,
Yeah.
and then once you get in the car, it's almost like you get once you leave those gates,
Yeah.
the mentality that armor comes. You put that armor on, and you're like, I'm ready. Okay, let's do it. You know, it's the same. It's the same concept when we're deployed. Almost the same. I wouldn't say
That's
this.
interesting.
Obviously it's not the same activity,
Yeah.
but it's almost the same mentality.
I mean, the overlap is violence.
Hmm.
The overlap is taking lives or your life gets taken, right?
Yes,
It's
yes,
just on a different form.
yes.
So, did you have any? So those battles were from a distance, but
Hmm.
did you have any closer combat?
No, most of the combat was at a distance.
Okay.
Nothing close. Um, nothing. The closest I've seen was maybe like somebody at a checkpoint and um, a car wouldn't stop, and they had to fire some rounds at the car and then kill the driver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. But nothing where I used like close enough, like kind of hand combat or close enough where I can like see the person's reaction. I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I don't
I think about just doing the nonprofit. I kind of have surrounded myself with survivors of
know.
partners who had died, right? Line of duty deaths.
Mm,
In that same sense, um, did you have any friends who died in combat with you?
we had a couple of guys that passed.
Mm.
They weren't close to me, but they were in like our unit kind
Yeah.
of. We had a tank that rolled off a bridge.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So there was a sandstorm, and we were in convoy, and sandstorm hit like out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't see anything in a sandstorm. It's like, I mean, you open the hatch, we're like, oh man, this thing's like. So we had to hunker down, and they told everybody to stop, halt. Apparently, the tank maybe didn't get the comms
Yeah.
and kept rolling, and it rolled off the bridge. And initially, they didn't know where it went, like where'd it go,
Damn.
and I don't know how they found out, but they were at the bottom of the.
Hmm.
I want to say it was Euphrates River.
Mm.
And yeah, they all of them perished. Yeah.
Was is there any I mean, you didn't know them, but is there any survivor's guilt that came during that time, or even fast forward into the future? Into
No, I mean, no survivor's guilt. I think if I would have maybe known him personally or
Yeah.
something, but no. I mean, no. I mean, you feel. I feel. There was a couple other guys too in the Amtrak infantry guys. I also got hit by artillery, and they passed too. It was close too. The artillery was so close to the tank that it jolted. Like it
Yeah.
literally seemed like their artillery was like feet away.
Yeah.
But it was probably like half a mile away or something
Wow.
like that.
Damn.
Um, but I always think about those guys. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have, like, I don't get that like, I know what you're saying, like survivors guilt. No, but it does sometimes when I see like all the guys that pass and stuff. Sometimes it does come through me a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
man, like, I'm over here like living my life, and then
Yeah.
their families are like they don't have their loved ones. You know,
Right.
that I think about that all the time.
That's the motivation that Joe Cerrito uses. He's like, this shit hurts, but fuck, like, you know, like Pizzillo, he wishes he felt this pain, you know.
Right, right,
So I'm gonna feel it for him.
right,
I'm like, holy shit.
right. Yeah, there's different
That's,
level.
I mean, definitely, but what great motivation, damn. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, um, to the guilt of living a life of pleasure when people pass
right.
away doing the job. It could have been you, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that yeah. I mean, you know, it's unfortunate, right? Our job is, we put our lives on the line. The military as well. But when that's the thing, the stuff we think about, like they gave their lives. I think for kind of like to make us everything better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's why sometimes when you're having a bad day or damn, it's like today's a bad day, and you think about that, it's like not really.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not.
I
you
found
know.
myself the other day. I was having sushi by myself, and he didn't like the sushi fell off the rice. He didn't
Uh
like
huh.
pack the rice right, and
Mhm.
I was mad
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
like 8 seconds,
Right.
and then I just caught myself. I'm like, well, I'm mad that
Right.
this sushi's not to my
right.
liking. Who the
Right.
Anyway, that's just a stupid little example, but
right. No.
it's true. It's true though. Yeah.
So I try to. That's how things I try to instill in my kids. And it's hard.
Yeah.
My kids are young, and you. Oh, it was hard. It's hard. It was hard. Really, dude. You think it was hard? But then I can't really be like preach to them like, oh, because it's gonna go one ear after the other. So I just try to pick moments to kind of educate them and kind of like tell them my experience, like that they can kind of like, oh, okay, next time it's not that hard. I'm gonna push myself, or what I mean.
Well, even in the same concept of training P1s, we don't have the same mentality.
Right.
Generational change in what police work is,
Exactly.
but violence stays the same,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, um, I don't even know where we started with this, but
But no, it's the same with them. It's a different generation, right?
yeah,
So they're like, oh, man, that's to them certain things that it's hard for them, or it's hard for them to understand. Like, oh yeah, we have to lose a little force here, or it takes for them a little bit of months and months to go. Oh, okay, I see why we have to do this.
it takes longer for them if they're successful to, I mean, quite literally to want to use violence
Yes.
to stop violence.
To stop violence, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because like you said, violence don't change.
Yeah.
They don't change, but the type of police officers that are coming in, they're a little bit different the way they think. You know
Right.
what I mean? So I think a lot of them are coming in with a certain mentality, but I think once they see like the way the job is, they're like, oh, wait a minute. They change their mentality a little different.
What I will give them, I haven't been an FTO as long as you have, but what I will give them, what I've seen in the last year and a half is they're real honest about what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we sound like old fogies in my
Yeah.
time, but we just would shut the fuck up
Yeah.
and just yes sir, monkey see.
Right.
I've had people say, that domestic violence suspect who just beat his wife, like he needs help.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be arresting him. Like,
Right.
okay, that could frustrate me,
Right.
and he needs to change. But damn, they're like, in my experience, they're being honest and out loud about this stuff.
Right.
Right. So
Yes.
at first it was kind of annoying me.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I gotta listen.
Yeah, I think same here. The P1 that I got years ago,
Yeah.
it's a little different now. So yeah, like you said,
Oh, yeah.
they're more vocal. They're more quick to share their opinions and how they feel about
Yeah.
something. Which at first I was like you said, like it's the old guard. We were like, why are you even talking? Like why are you even talking right now? Like why are you
Yeah.
even giving me your opinion? Right?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned to kind of like hear them out and then kind of like split, kind of.
But then there's a catch-22, right? Because like we were talking about earlier, if we're overanalyzing and scared at the moment of violence, we're going to hesitate or we're not going to act and someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So where is that balance? But at the same time, that new generation, they might be able to handle stress better.
Right.
Because most of them now are like straight edge. They don't drink or anything. It's
Right.
weird.
Right.
But it's the way it should be. So
Mhm.
where's that balance? That's an interesting question, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think, times are obviously times are changing. New generation. So as a training officer, I guess we have to just
Yeah.
adapt to the new type of trainee.
Yeah.
I think if we kind of fight against what we're bringing in, like the type
Yeah.
of recruit, we're just gonna like end up losing them. Most
Yeah.
of these
I think
kids.
that's there are certain, I think, certain mentality out there of FTOs who they're happy to fire them
Yeah.
when they should be given a little more of a chance. Maybe the job isn't for them, but it shouldn't be right at the beginning, first
Right.
couple months.
Right.
That shouldn't be happening.
Right. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we need to like be hard on them, and
Yeah.
I get them in. The Marine and military thing comes in all the time, but I can't treat them like a recruit. It
Right.
just not. I'll probably like I'll quit. They would
Yeah.
probably quit the next couple of days.
Yeah, we got to evolve too.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I want to transition into a little bit of leadership after I freshen this up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me about the leadership you saw on any level in battle, or lack of, positives and negatives that you saw that affected everything.
In battle or just general anything?
No, in battle.
In battle. Well, I mean, I think the only thing that I saw, and this is going to be kind of funny, but because we were a reserve guys, reserve unit.
Okay.
So imagine going to reserve, and then we get activated, and then we get to put with the active guys. And the active guys are like, "What are these guys doing?" You know what I mean? Like,
It might be almost like our reserves,
kind of, yeah,
right?
almost like that, yeah. So, the sergeants in the
So your whole unit, there are reserves, even the
yeah,
supervisors and.
yeah,
Okay.
the command was a little bit, they were a little harsh just towards some guys, but that was expected, because we're deployed in a different environment, you know. But I gotta say, as far as leadership, we were down there. We had our leadership was, I think, it was pretty strong. I mean, there was a couple of I want to say tank leaders that were a little bit maybe a little too overwhelmed by the situation, I guess you can say, where they couldn't make decisions
Mm.
on their own. And not to say because it's their lack of experience. Maybe it's just there's some of them are just a little bit too emotional, where they got you got the best of them,
Yeah.
and they didn't know how to treat their like tank crew. A lot of them, where the morale was down in some
Yeah.
of the tank crews. And so we got some guys that are kind of depressed, and then you got another tank crew where they're all moto, right? Because their tank leader's like cool.
Yeah.
So in that aspect,
Interesting.
yeah, as far as like leadership, like with the whole dynamic of being deployed, I thought it was okay. Now we're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
As far as like the leadership of why are we here? I mean, that's a whole different story, maybe a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
When we look at it in hindsight, when we got back, it's like, why were we there?
Yeah.
So that's a whole different conversation. But not to say that I am still proud of the Marine Corps and that I was a Marine and stuff. But there was a lot of political
Yeah. Heck yeah.
stuff that was going
It'd
on
be
there.
silly just to ignore that, right?
Of course, of course, of
But I
course.
could see how it could cause a conflict in the shit you saw and
Yeah.
the shit you did.
Yeah. So as part of if you're talking about leadership, that's where I kind of like. I think maybe I don't know who dropped the ball, but that kind of failed failed us, I guess, or
Yeah.
the country or the Marines or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was but we're gonna do our job no matter what.
Right.
You tell me to go, and I'm gonna do my job. So
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, that's a conversation for another time. But as far as leadership within the units, there was great. I mean, there was good leadership. I didn't see anything that that was questionable. You
Yeah.
know, um, and yeah, I didn't see that was your question, right? It was there was any lack of leadership.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Just so what was the good things you saw there, or bad things, and you answered it.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I mean, we had obviously a big old speech by one of the colonels there, um, and it was a good, nice little motivational speech he had. Uh, yeah, obviously everybody's like, it's is in that mode where they're, hey, we just want to go in so we can go home.
Yeah.
Um, but when I we got there, like I said, like the sergeants were great. Um, they supported the guys. Obviously, it wasn't like anything. Okay, how are you feeling or anything like that. But as far as like logistics, and,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was.
I
I
feel.
think we all had each other. We all had each other as a unit.
Yeah.
So we didn't really care about the command itself. We just knew we had to kind of like look after each other.
Huh.
So when there was downtime, we kind of like got together. The guys got together and kind of like we had our own little.
So it seems like the higher you go up on the command, the chain of command, the more important leadership it
Yeah,
became.
yeah, and there's always going to be disagreements like, why do we do this, or why was decision made that we had to go in here to this town, or
Yeah.
but that's beyond our pay grade. But like I said, we always just looked out for ourselves, maybe,
Yeah.
and
Seems like the hardest part of leadership, besides the basic command presence to have everybody, is really keeping a large group motivated.
yeah,
That's real leadership, like
yeah,
keeping them actually motivated, right?
right,
I don't know, just going off of what you're saying.
right, yeah, keeping motivated during extreme bad
Yeah.
times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that goes back to law enforcement, to what we do. Like we have these riots. People are like, it's a culture where people don't like police, and it's they're being outspoken, the media, and so that goes back to our leadership. Like,
Oh.
like they need to step up and be more vocal about supporting us, and
Yeah.
when there's decisions to be being made that during the riots, like they have to be made like not by political, because there's a political aspect to it. Keep it real, and like, hey, we need to the decision needs to be made, like, for example, like when the CHP coppers were getting those rocks.
That was horrible.
I'm gonna be honest, like,
Were you sitting at the station with me watching it?
yes, so
Yeah. No. But there was no broadcast on our
come
frequency about it for an
so
hour and a half,
I,
right?
I couldn't help to think that was political, like, no, they didn't want to go in there and help.
Mm.
I mean, you do a help call, and how long does it take for officers to get there? Pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
So just stuff like that, like the but I don't know what's it gonna take for for leaders to get behind us at times, stuff like incidents like that where the seasoned distress and officers need help. I don't know.
It just seems like they're saying the right things. We have enough time where our friends are now in these positions,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's I don't know if politics doesn't allow a leader to protect us in the way that we think we deserve. At the very least, communicate honestly
Yeah,
with your
of course.
team, and I don't feel that happening.
Right. Even if you have to say, hey guys, look, this is what I would like to do, but I can't do it because of this.
And you should take this attitude towards
Yeah.
it, and let's be there for each other. Like,
Yeah, let's be for each other. Like, yeah,
it's
work with me, guys.
the
Like,
opposite is happening. I feel,
yeah,
right?
yes. Like,
Okay, so it's not just me.
no.
And I think I was trying to remember the stuff we were talking about, like at work that was getting us frustrated, and I think this is it
Hmm.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then we go back to officer wellness, right? It's like almost like this is all brand new to the department. This is something that's should have had
Well,
a long time ago. Like I think we spoke about this. Like somebody gets into a shooting and then you put them on the street like 2 days after. And this is what's going on before, right?
yeah,
Now obviously they're trying to get it right, but
yeah.
but it's a big deal when you get into a shooting. I never been into one, um but I can only imagine like your body goes through all these changes,
Yeah.
chemical changes, and you need time to decompress and to, you know,
I definitely, just using myself as an example, I was put out there before GTU training,
dude.
which is apparently illegal or something like that. I don't know. I'm not going to work before this 2 week rule, which I
Hmm.
realized wasn't a hard rule. And I asked, and it was just, policy was just read back to me,
Yeah.
like whatever. And then I get put out, in 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 Los Angeles, we get put out as a car to officer car,
Yeah.
and then my first day back, I get put out by myself. I'm not gonna
That's
be
a
like,
tough
I'm
part.
scared to go by myself.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, let's go, right?
yeah,
But uh, that's not what you do to your cop.
yeah.
So when you think about the captain at that time who was in charge of all those decisions for me,
Hmm.
it's a huge middle finger to me or my feelings or my any well being to me.
Right.
And it's not about me, it's about just this is the thing that we see collectively over time, so
Hmm.
there's obviously something there, right? So
Hmm.
now I'm in a place where my friends are moving up
Yeah.
and they're saying the right things, but I don't it, so what's the answer? I don't know. I mean, we
Right.
should be learning from stuff, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like I mean, the department it seems like they're trying to get it right now, but I mean, this has been going on for a while,
Yeah,
and um, not only that, but after not off the shootings, but you're talking about big incidents. Like you have an incident like this, there's riots. You got full mobilization,
yeah,
guys, no days off. And you think they're not going to be like depleted and morale's not down.
yeah.
So I don't know. They have to think of some type of way where they can like better communicate with the officers and better take care of them in a better way.
I feel like you and me could do that.
Yeah. you
I
know.
don't think it's hard.
Yeah. And funny thing is that you not only that, but talking about maybe shootings or a tactical incident or something. But if the longer you're on the job,
Yeah,
your body goes through changes.
yeah.
I mean, I remember when I think I hit like 16 years maybe. And people used to say, "You're gonna get burned out.
Oh,
You're gonna get burned out."
yeah.
Never.
Right,
Well, I did.
right.
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
And when I first got to here to LEPD and left probation, and I started working all these Wazoo units, and I was like, oh man, I was like, man, but not. I mean, I was like that. Like I wanted to get arrested all the time. I was like nonstop. I fucking slept and I dreamt LEPD. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
That was my thing.
Yep. Yeah.
That was my life for like a long time, and then it came to Olympic, and I had my kids, and even then I was like, still going strong, and at 16 years I was like, I burned out. I just
Uh,
burned out, dude. Boom, burned out, and I was about to be like, no, the riot. Remember the riots for the
the 2020.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's when I was like,
that was a huge burnout for us, shit, for
it
everybody.
burned me out, and after that I was like, you know what? I'm done. My productivity went down.
Yeah. If that didn't open your eyes to just you're just a number, holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. And no, but I remember you used to tell me that
Uh,
back in the days
what'd I say?
that you were just a number,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I just went through. But I was like, whatever. But That's when I realized, oh, you know what?
I might have burned out before you then.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
burnt out like in 2014, 2015.
yeah, yeah. Well, I remember because you were kind of like already,
I was fucking,
yeah.
yeah.
So, after that, I was like, you know what? Forget it, man. And not to say I didn't still do my job as a training officer. I did, but I wasn't like, out there fucking trying to get 2 felonies a day or anything
Yeah.
like that. But after that, that's when I knew I was burned out. But back to what I'm trying to say is that the department needs to look more at officers that have more time
Yeah.
and kind of do an evaluation on them. Like, hey, this guy, does he need to maybe do this, or does he need, you know,
Yeah.
because if you're out there and you have more than 20 years, and
Just never on patrol the
on
whole time. Yeah.
patrol,
In the uniform the whole time.
yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I mean, you can do it, but it's tough. It's tough, especially if you have, um, I mean, like, I'm gonna say like Botras, man. Botras been out for a long time, man. I fucking commend him, Props to
Yeah.
Botras. Props,
Yeah.
Botras. You know,
Whew.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, but at least check up on Botras. Like, hey, let me call you. Hey, Botras, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Is everything going good with you? Like at home, like at least that. And if Botras says, obviously, yeah, I'm good, sir. Like, no, all right. But at least you called him in. You know.
And this is not to call anybody out at all, but it's hitting me now, right? So like sergeants are in and out.
Mm-hmm.
You have some that stay. Captains are in and out. That just thinking about it now, I'm not calling anybody out because
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly not. But that sounds like it's a job for the lieutenants and sergeant twos,
Pretty much.
right? I'm just thinking about that right now
Yeah.
because they're there for the longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty much. Like all it takes is I would even say a line supervisor. Like,
Mm.
hey, how is so and so doing?
Yeah.
Oh no, you know what, he's going through this. Hey, you call him in. Hey, what's going on? But you okay? So just to kind of like
Yeah.
maybe get one on with him
Yeah.
with them and show them you care. I mean, that's gonna go a long way. If you see supervisors doing that,
Yeah.
dude, that would go a long way with the morale. Like, hey, I love my supervisor.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Because it's just not like he's just not my boss. Like at
Yeah.
least he cares about me.
You would take care of so many things by default. People banging in. You would
Yeah,
take care of like how we handle calls. You wouldn't
everything,
put your supervisor in a bad position. Like all of
everything.
these, it would just
Yeah,
by default take care of so much.
yeah, everything, anything. It's like, oh, so this I'm going through this or I'm going through that. Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? Let me try to get you a day off over here.
Yeah.
Okay, boom. That's it's all it takes. It's not rocket science. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But who knows what's gonna take?
It's like simple,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not happening. I mean, I also don't know like learning leadership in a classroom and then applying it
Mm-hmm.
are two very different things.
Yeah.
Being the follower and then trying to take that role, which you're going to take soon, right?
Yeah.
We'll,
We'll see.
we'll
We'll see.
regroup, right?
Yeah,
And
we'll see
see,
because
yeah.
maybe but for
Because
me,
okay, go ahead.
no, for me, that's for me. Officer wellness is big, and I think
Yeah,
I want to try to implement it. I mean, who knows? Maybe I might be busy doing complaints or whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
But you know what? I think I would find the time to
Hopefully,
observe my officers and see what's going on.
definitely some to that. The self reflection's huge there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this. A lot of times I worry about this. Does this sound like a shit talking session? But it's real. It's venting from actual things that affect us.
Hmm.
So I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, full circle. We got a little more time on. People are promoting
Hmm.
and applications different. So let's see.
Yeah.
Shit. You let
Let's,
me know when you get there.
yeah, I know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, man.
They say that you change, but I mean, I don't feel myself. I mean, I think me and you've been on the job long enough where I don't think we can change too much. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna managerial position, yeah,
Yeah.
but as far as like looking after the troops, I don't think that should be an
Yeah.
issue.
I also think it matters if the individual cares.
Right. Yes.
And you that's very readable right away.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out.
We'll see.
We'll see. We could fix the world with this one podcast. But yeah, man, we'll close it out. And I forgot to prep you on this, but that's all right. I'd like to dedicate a podcast to a fallen offshore or somebody. I want to put that on you if you want to dedicate this podcast to anybody.
Does it have to be a?
Nope. Could be
no.
anybody, brother.
I'll dedicate it to my godson, Ethan Carlos. You know, he obviously passed away last year. He was a young kid, but a lot of energy and a lot of wisdom, and so yeah, I dedicate that podcast.
Yeah, man. If he brings you motivation and inspiration when you're out there, that's beautiful. You have your little wrist.
I do. Yeah,
What's
I
it
do
say?
have it. So love yourself, spread love, live like Ethan Carlos. Yeah. So yeah.
All right, brother. Thanks, Mijo.